from our companies.
So how do women break through the glass ceiling? Well, Sylvia Ann Hewlett is the author of the new book called Off-Ramps and On-Ramps, Keeping Talented Women on the Road to Success. And Lisa Belkin is a columnist for the New York Times. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Oh boy, these numbers are somewhat depressing for a lot of women. 12 of all Fortune 500 companies have a female CEO, and a woman still makes 81 cents on every dollar a man makes. This is 2007. Who's to blame, Lisa?
The world, and in part women who made choices that had unexpected consequences. The world didn't come as far as we thought it would. I mean, back 40 years ago when this whole trip started, we figured if we leveled the playing field, if we just let everybody in, then women, because they are so superior, would just, take off and conquer the world. And we forgot about a lot of things, most of which Sylvia covers in great detail, but we didn't account for the fact that it was more complicated than that. And mostly, we didn't account for biology. We didn't account for the fact that we have to stop at some point, and men don't, to at least decide whether to have kids.
In fact, your research supports this idea, Sylvia, because you found that 2/3 of all women will leave the workforce at some point, and that children are cited as the #1 reason. That's the biology piece that Lisa was talking about. And women who are off-ramped for 3+ years, you say, earn 37% less than their coworkers. This is a problem.
You know, these non-linear careers and a real problem. A third off-ramp completely, another third take what I call a scenic route. A little bit of flex time, a reduced hour job. And those options tend to kind of sideswipe women. And I guess what's happening out there, and this is the kind of good news, is that there's a whole lot of companies, and I have, 18, great new examples of what to do about this, who are getting in there and helping reattach women, helping retain women, helping give them really rich...
You're saying these policies work. You're saying that they work for some women.
They do, because, right now, if you can't conjure up those linear progressions, continuous cumulative employment, for instance, through the decade of your 30s, you really get clobbered by the labor market.
Okay, let's break this down, because I think this might be too academic for some people. Let's talk about specifically for a woman who's trying to face this issue for herself. When she makes a choice to off-ramp or take a scenic route, she's taking a serious hit potentially at her income in the future. Is there a profession that's more likely than not? In other words, how does she play this game of chess, Lisa?
Women don't decide what they're going to be when they grow up based on flexibility. I actually ended up in journalism. It was happenstance, and I happened into something flexible. So I now work from home. I get to write things that I find compelling and interesting and fulfilling, but I do it more or less on my terms. That was an accident. At 20 years old, I didn't sit down and think about that. Women who end up in professions that just don't have that much flexibility, or until recently have not had that much flexibility, find themselves hitting, call it what you want, the maternal wall, the glass ceiling, the reality that at some point, if you're going to have these children, you have to have them.
So really, what you said, really it is true that you need to have a job that's going to allow you to have some flexibility in the job that you really want. But we also need companies to step up, as you were talking about earlier. What specifically, Sylvia, what specifically can companies do to help level this playing field?
Well, very newly, companies, even in tough sectors, say engineering or Wall Street, are creating programs that allow women to ramp down, even to say 3-4 days a month, but then ramp up again
and
have a second shot at ambition. And there's all kinds of new success stories out there, and I think it's very important to absorb that. Just this week, Michelle Obama is off-ramping. She, for the first time in her life, is leaving her job. And in a recent interview, she shared her fears, because even the most well-qualified woman with all kinds of great connections is pretty scared, because they know that going back in, you really might get penalized.
Okay, we only have a few seconds left. Best advice for a woman facing this decision?
Think about it when you're deciding what to be when you grow up. Think about it when you're deciding whether or not to leave. Think about re-entry as strategically as you take a job, leave a job if you're going to, and keep your hand in so you can get back.
I'll have to let that be the last word. All right, Lisa Belkin, Sylvia Ann Hewlett, maybe also make sure you maintain your relationships with people of work, even if you do off-ramp. And by the way, Sylvia Ann's book is Off-Ramps and On-Ramps. More coming up after this.
Wednesday, an NBC exclusive. And